In the aftermath of Hurricane Odile, residents of Mexico's Baja California Peninsula are experiencing shortages of food, water, and fuel. CCTV's Franc Contreras joins us with more from Mexico City. Frank?
Thanks, Mike. Yes, Cabo San Lucas on the southern tip of the Baja California Peninsula is generally one of the most beautiful places in Latin America. It's well known, a resort for tourists, five-star hotels surrounded by peaceful fishing villages usually, Mike. But Hurricane Odile turned all that on its head this past week. It basically provoked tremendous shortages of all basic supplies there. Fear and panic set in as residents of Southern California confront shortages of gasoline, drinking water, and food. Local people in Cabo San Lucas forced their way into shopping centers, taking most anything they could get their hands on. Canned foods were favorite items for the looters, but non-food merchandise is also being stolen.
There was a lot of disorder, and they went in to loot televisions, stovetops, and a lot of stuff. They were running out with lots of merchandise. Some were taking cans of beans, milk, whatever they can get their hands on.
Odile is the strongest hurricane to hit this part of Mexico in nearly 50 years. It has left much of the southern tip of Baja California without electricity. That means no running water. Soldiers are present, but they've been unable to prevent widespread looting, which has intensified as residents deal with the crisis. Mexico's federal government has sent military transport planes, which have evacuated at least 14,000 tourists, many from the United States.
We've never been through a hurricane before. It was unlike, and the fire department came and evacuated us from our hotel and got us out, and we were all stunned by the devastation.
The government estimates that some 30,000 tourists were in the area when Hurricane Odile came ashore late Sunday night. The vast majority, some 26,000, are foreign visitors who came hoping for fun and relaxation. Another 4,000 are Mexican tourists. Emergency shelters are still filled with people, thousands of people who are waiting to get out of that part of Mexico, but they're going to have to be patient. Flights are on their way, and still it's going to be quite some time, Mike, before all the tourists are pulled out of that hurricane disaster area.
Frank, is Mexico's government also having a problem? It appears so in terms of political tensions coming from the U.S. state of Texas.
Right, if it wasn't enough to be dealing with two hurricanes, one that just left devastation and one on its way, the Mexican government is now dealing as well with some political tensions with one of its biggest trading partners. And we're speaking not of the United States, Mike, but of the state of Texas, where Governor Rick Perry has decided to send 1,000 National Guard troops to the border between the United States and Mexico. And remember, Texas makes up about half of that giant border between these two neighboring countries. They were sent mostly to the Rio Grande Valley. And the governor of Texas explained that he was worried about the inflow of Central American migrants, but he also at one point suggested that the Islamic State might send terrorists across the border from Mexico into the United States. Of course, the president of Mexico called that reprehensible, Mike, and he said that such a thing, making this move of sending Guard troops to the border, was actually a blow to good relations. And so what happened next was the governor decided to write a letter. If it wasn't enough, he decided to write a letter with a bit sharp language, and this is what he said. The governor said, quote, "Challenges today, the ones we're facing, are partly a consequence of the failure of the Mexican government to secure its southern border or deploy adequate resources to control the criminal element in Mexico." And of course, you can imagine that provoked another backlash here at diplomatic level. And this is what one Mexican official had to say this week, aiming at the governor of Texas.
This is not an issue of security on the border. It is a humanitarian matter having to do with the presence of young Central Americans who are there and who must be treated in accordance with the United States legal framework.
So this sort of thing really provokes a bit of tension between these two massively important trading partners. Mike, it turns out that Texas alone is doing some $101 billion per year in trade with Mexico. But analysts we spoke to earlier today suggested that Mexico will probably not try to retaliate. It simply has too much to lose, Mike.
Interesting. Franc Contreras, live for us in Mexico City. Thank you.